Now, if there's any such thing as the perfect fishing day, today is that day. There's been a spell of really hot weather, but today it's overcast, there's a little bit of wind, the sun hasn't come out, but it's still nice and warm. We are though in the middle of summer, and at this time of year, it's bag up time at the commercials. The fish are on the move, they're also on the munch. And today we're going to look at two really dead simple methods with a few tips that will help everybody put a few more fish in the net. So the first method we're going to look at is dead simple, really easy to fish, and it's paste. People get confused about paste. Me, I make it out of ground bait. It's cheap and cheerful. It's really easy to make. Just over wet it until you've got it to the texture you want. That's it. Rig wise, simple as you like. You have a big long float so you can see, you know, so the idea of that is when the paste comes off, the float lifts slightly and you know you haven't got any bait. Absolutely no shot down the line. So if you plumb to the dead depth, the weight of the paste alone cocks the float and you can't go wrong. Your big hook and tips for paste fishing. So one of the most important things you can do is plumb to dead depth. But what you're looking for out there is where the shelf starts to go down. Every commercial fishery has that shelf. You plumb up and it'll get deeper and deeper, and if you look for the point where it's at the deepest point at the bottom of the shelf and then come back a little bit, you'll find that that bit of the bottom of the lake there is quite hard. If you can find a flat bit there, even better. But if you come back a little bit, it's hard and the fish quite like to feed over that. Size of paste isn't particularly important this time of year. I think that the bigger the bit of paste, probably the bigger the fish you catch. One of the best tips that I can give you about paste fishing are to keep the fish on the bottom. People cup in sweet corn, or they always say hemp keeps them down. Me, because normally you're fishing around 5 meters out, I tend to throw 2 big handfuls of 6mm pellets after I've had a bite. So I've catch a fish, 2 big handfuls, get the fish in, back in, another fish, 2 big handfuls, and that's how I feed, and for me I think that works best. Another tip with paste fishing, you're going to catch big fish and you need a pole that will handle that. Heavy elastics, powerful fish, easy to use, and you need lots of strength, and we'll come to look at the pole I'm using today in a moment. So when it comes to the size of the piece of paste you use, I would always look at the fishery rules and use as big a hook as you can get away with. I'm fishing with a 10 today. If you've got to use a 12 you can, and at this time of year when it's warm you need quite a big piece of paste. I think the bigger the paste, normally the bigger the fish. So you flatten it like that, put the hook in the middle. I don't really hold with the fact that paste has to be super soft. You know, I know a lot of anglers really like it super soft. I think it goes in the water, it's getting really soft almost immediately. So as you can see, there it is. It's, I don't know, it's like a big marble size, and I wouldn't hesitate to use it the size of a conker, but there it is. I pop it into a pot, helps to ship it out, out it goes, tip it out, and I bring the float back slightly, because you know the depth that you plumb there, and the float should sit at the perfect depth. If it comes up, like I said, the float will come up a little bit. 9 times out of 10 the bite is just that, and you're in. So the second method we're going to look at, again, really simple, just like the paste method. This is really easy to use, is pellets in the margin. This time of year, in fact, all times of year, the fishing commercials really do like pellets, but I'll go for larger pellets at this time of year, 6 mils in particular. You can band them, or you can put them straight on a hook with a band, hair rig them. There's lots of ways of using them, but that doesn't always guarantee that you're going to catch fish. Where you put your pellet is of more importance than that. And one of the best tips I could give anybody looking to fish pellets in the margin are to find a little bit of bare bank, or get the float as close to the bank every time as you can. So the bait's slightly out into the lake and the pellet's right up against the bank, maybe even it's down that shelf. If you've got deeper margins like you have here, for instance, where it's really difficult to get up in the bank, I'm afraid that you'll probably have to fish a hard pellet on the hook, but fish with the pellet falling through the water, and maybe half depth is better than fishing on the bottom, because you're going to get a lot of liners in deep water. It's a frustrating method, and I've had lots of discussions with some really good anglers about it. You feed the pellets, the float's constantly going over, you miss and you get foulers. You just can't really avoid that in deeper water. But if you get the float right up against the bank, so a bit of bare bank sometimes works better than something where there's snags or weeds, and then the pellet falls that way, it's going to work much better than any other way, rather than keeping it out a little bit. Like I say, if it's really deep, and for that I'd say between 4 foot and upwards, keep it at half depth. Again, a couple of things might help you. One is to fish with quite a light coloured top. This is a Shadow Zero top from Middy, and obviously this colour is probably proven by nature. If you look at the front of a heron, that's where the idea first came from. I think it was Dennis White that came up with that idea, that the front of a heron is a white colour, and let's be honest, they walk around the margins stabbing fish, so nature probably knows its way. So that's why you use a light coloured top, because you're in shallower water and it doesn't throw a shadow so much, and it doesn't spook the fish. So they're my tips. Now we're going to have a little look at a pole that you could use for both of those simple methods that won't ever let you down. When you're fishing a pace line or pellets in the margin, you're going to encounter big carp. It's going to happen, they're going to come along. And what you need to handle those big carp is a strong, powerful and super reliable elastic. Now, my pace fishing, I actually choose a Middy product. I really like the Reactor Core Crimson. I think it's 22 to 24 rated, but I'll tell you why I like it. It powers up really quickly. It's still got lots of stretch in it. It retracts well. You don't have to constantly change it. And when it comes to big fish, I really like it. I think it sort of sits nicely between elastics that are just too heavy or simply just stretch too far. And once you put it in, you're not constantly having to tweak it and cut a bit off the end. For me, big carp, Reactor Core 22, 24, crimson colour. So one thing that you are going to need for a bit of summer bagging is a super reliable pole. And this is Middy's new M2G Pulse model. It comes in at 10 metres long, so that means it's long enough to get up to the next margin. It can certainly deal with pace fishing. And for commercial stuff, this is an ideal tool. Now, it's got super strong section walls, which means you're not going to put your elbow through this. You're not going to break it either. It's incredibly strong. The joints are really nice. They come apart quite easily, and they're section alignment arrows, so you put them together, and what that does, it means that the pole is always fishing in its optimum performance level, so it's really stiff. It has some other really nice features as well, including side puller kits. They're an absolute must these days, so when you're playing the fish, it makes it so much easier. These are SIC ones. There's loads of room in there for the heaviest of elastics, so they're good for that. It also comes with an EVA protector on the end of the fourth, so should you drop it in, it helps it float, and it also stops the joint from wearing out. It comes with a couple of top kits. It comes with the Shadow Zero that we touched on earlier. This has got a 30 elastic rating, so it's that'll certainly handle the biggest of carp. And it comes with a match kit, which has still got a really high elastic rating of 22. Another great little feature with this pole, and for the guys that really are into their margin and pace fishing, it really is a super bit of kit. This is a mini fighter extension, and it fits in the end of the fourth or the fifth joint, just like that. And what that gives you, this thing is really, really It's ridiculously strong. So you like that, you're hanging on, you need to strike, you know, because when you're fishing with pace, you tend to, you know, because it's a short range, you do get a bit of overzealous striking sometimes with it. So this mini fighter extension is a great idea from Middy. So we've had a look at a couple of methods that should catch you plenty of fish. We've had a quick look at Middy's latest M2 G-Pulse pole, which is a real bagging job, and it does exactly as it says on the tin. It is an extreme animal tamer. I believe it's in the shops now and retailing for around about £300. And if you're in the market for a super strong summer bag-up pole, then this is the boy to look out for. Also available in Middy's new Xtreme G-Pulse range is the 4-metre M1 G-Pulse, which is an ideal margin pole rated to 30 elastic. And at the top of the range you have the M3. It's available in 11.5 and 13 metre packages with prices from £599. Again, it's rated to a 30 elastic. For more information, check out middytackle.com.